Welcome back. Welcome in. This is Country Roads Confidential at earsports.com. It's a Paramount podcast. I am Mike Casazza, joined here on Saturday night by Chris Anderson. Chris, we have just watched West Virginia um, play with its food in Stillwater. Easy win over Oklahoma State. There are not a lot of easy wins. You don't often do that against Oklahoma State, never mind at Oklahoma State. Um, there are a lot of reasons maybe to worry about this game. They were all vanquished pretty quickly here. This is well earned by West Virginia. Kudos to them. Um, I'll talk to you tomorrow.
That should wrap us up. Sounds good. So you're going to
Yeah,
set the Q&A thread tomorrow and probably only have two or three questions in there for Monday, right?
yeah. Let me ask you this then, just for one
Okay.
question off the top of my head. I'm not going to go for the full quarters here because they added so much vanilla in that second half. That first half, if you isolate stretches of football under Neil Brown, I have no rival here. That's the best they played. Fair?
I think that's a very fair statement. The first half, maybe even they've had some decent defensive performances over the years. So I don't want to say, but maybe the most complete offense and defense. Certainly the best the offense has played under Neil Brown for an entire half. Sure.
Trying to think of other games even here. I don't want to be too down the rabbit hole, but you figure something emphatic and impressive is going to jump out. So I'm thinking, all right, you know, BYU last year, Cincinnati last year. Um, there's not a lot of even like people in the room here. Like that's a pretty quiet conversation when you're talking amongst yourselves about which of us is the best performance by Neil Brown. This might be pretty easy to answer then, I guess. So maybe we're not that much there. Before we get into the first half, what do you make of the second half? I don't want to rain on parades, but I also don't want people to rain on parades either. That first half was business-like. That was what you have to do. You get off the bus and you say, you know what? It'd be awesome if it could be done by halftime, guys. And they were, right? I'm not sure that's the goal, but that second half, they probably want a little bit more. I'm assuming the first drive in particular when they got the ball back, maybe even after that interception. Great play by Trotter. Um, but man, I just don't I don't think it takes away from anything what they accomplished, especially early on.
Yeah. Second half, we can just put it this way. Four drives, 24 minutes. That was the most important stat of the second half for West Virginia. When you are up four scores, that's the most important stat. And how many injuries? Maybe zero. A couple guys limping off towards the end. But in the second half there, the most important things were get this game over with, don't get anybody hurt.
Yeah, which leads me to this. Can I rant for a second?
Are we about to disagree about the Garrett Green play?
Okay, let's
Do
do
it.
it.
Yes,
Let's
do
do
it.
it.
No, you rant first, and then
Well,
I'll
let me
jump
say
in.
this.
Go ahead.
That was a beautiful drive. 11 plays, 32 yards, 6:31 off the clock. And I don't have plans. I can't go anywhere. I'm still recovering from surgery. So my Saturday night's done. I don't have anything to do. I'm like, can we hurry up here, please? This is great. I love this thing, right? I can go off and do nothing sooner than later now, right? The scramble on 4th and 5. I have no problem with going for it. Not my nit to pick there at all. I don't have a problem with Green sliding, especially after he gets hurt on a run earlier in the game. I understand the rule and all that. I'm not sure everybody does understand the rule. That's probably some of the confusion here. Can you be subjective in that? Because my thing here is if he runs through, he's got a first down. If he executes a slightly better slide, he's got a first down. If he takes on a defender, he's got a first down. There are 5 scenarios out there, right? He has a first down. He chose the one of the 5 that doesn't end with him in the first down, which is, well, there's 2, I guess. You could fumble it. But he slides, I don't know, a foot short, half a foot short. It has to go to review. They overturn it because it is pretty clear in the review that the pellets come up short of the first down. So that's fine. I just wonder, what are we doing? Like, we're trying to make this safer. He'd been hurt earlier in the game. This game is out of hand. Can they be subjective there? Is that a dangerous thing to get into? Do you gotta be letter of the law every time? Because I think, what are we doing here? Let the kid get the first down. He could have done 5 or 6 different things that could have endangered himself. He took the smart play. We're always telling quarterbacks, be smart, take the slide, so on and so forth. This leads to Green getting hurt against Baylor for no apparent reason weeks from now. That's another conversation. But right now, is it weird for me to say, what are we doing? Just give him the first down.
Oh, weird. In my mind, it's just, hey, the refs made the right call. That is
Yeah.
that is the rule. They reviewed it. It was correct and to reverse it. But yeah, it's hard. It's just one of those things that I think if I were coaching, I would just stop and stare at him like, really? Really? Because like I think he still had, I mean, obviously it's not standing on the field, seeing how quickly the guys are coming at him, but it certainly looked from a distance like he could have gone 4 yards past the first down marker and waltzed out of bounds untouched. Now, some Oklahoma State player just going to come flying in anyway and still hit him possibly. So I get that point, but it just felt like one of those plays where I can feel it in my bones. If I were a coach, I would just stare at him and be like, really? Why? Why? But again, 31-7. Learn those lessons when it's 31-7. Don't learn those lessons when it's 24-27. So good time to learn that and try to figure it out. But did feel what's the word I'm looking for here? Nitpicky. Nitpicky when it's a 24-point game. So I guess I get that part of it. Excuse me. I get that part of it, but you just can't do it. Like it's the right call. So I
Yeah.
don't have a hard time like giving the refs like, just saying, hey, they made the right call.
Yeah. Just some stats here because I don't know which ones to pick out that are the best. And I always do this. I turn the audio off of my game. If some of the stuff is repeated, I'm sorry. I don't know if anybody told Kirk Morrison that we have airplanes in West Virginia. But once I got over that, I just kind of hit mute. So some of this might have happened, but just a couple things here that define this game. Chris, the time of possession, I don't think I've seen this before. It's 43-17.
Okay, I actually had that makes sense. I hadn't actually looked at the exact numbers, but there were a couple correlate correlated stats that I wanted to talk about too that
Okay.
yeah, back that up. Sounds good.
All right.
43-17.
West Virginia did not want to get in the third down in this game. Look, there's a bunch of things I get into that I'm wrong on. I'm not wrong on, but I can qualify it. They did not want to get in the third down. They're not great at it, and Oklahoma State can be. Um, they're not at 15 on third down. That's a lot of third downs. They're 2 for 4 on fourth down. They're really 3 for 4 on fourth down. So let's say they got 12 of their 15 third downs, if you count that. I know it's weird math, but if you get your fourth down, you kind of get your third down. It's strange, I understand that, but you're still getting the first down in one of those two situations. Um, 2 penalties for 5 yards. I don't know how that happens. And one of them shouldn't have been a penalty because a large defensive lineman for Oklahoma State took forever to trot off the field. That should have been probably a way to slow that down a little bit. And then red zone points, Chris, 38-7, 6 trips to 1, 5 touchdowns and a field goal. And then after that, first field goal, it's touchdown, touchdown, touchdown the rest of the way there too. There's a script in there for West Virginia to make a mess of this game. Penalties, turnovers, I didn't even get to either, but that was obviously kind of went both ways, but you're fine there. Um, there were bullets to dodge in this game, Chris. They didn't dodge the bullets. They knocked the gun out of Oklahoma State's hand, and they never got those shots off. And then, just for emphasis, every one of those categories that they had to have, they got them. I mean, it's really impressive what they did. Again, that does not happen to Oklahoma State. It does not happen at Oklahoma State. It happened to and at Oklahoma State today.
Yeah, and it was I was having a hard time trying to come up with an adjective to describe WV's offense because they scored a ton of points. And my first thought was whenever you score a ton of points, especially in a half like that, explosive, right? The big plays, explosive. It was more methodical than I think, maybe that it felt in real time because you go through those drives. West
Mhm.
Virginia's drives were 3.5 minutes plus almost every single time. They only had the one time where they were under 3 minutes and 20 seconds, and that was when it was a 2 minute drill when they were trying to score just before the half. So their scoring was at 5 minutes and 40, 454, 329, 344, and then right before the half. And then again, I already mentioned the second half where they took the air out of the ball and just controlled the clock. So it was methodical. And the reason why they had that time of possession, those are pretty average kind of time of possessions there, the 3 minutes, 3 minutes, stuff like that. Credit to the WVU defense because Oklahoma State's drives are a minute 10 punt, minute 27 interception, 22 second into the half, minute 24 punt, minute 59 punt. Like Oklahoma State just didn't have the ball a lot, and a lot of that was because of the defense as well. Some solid play from there. Can I ask you a question, Mike,
Please do.
about that? I think this is obviously going to, I mean, I feel like this is going to define how things go with West Virginia for the rest of the season. Was this a performance, one side, both sides, however you want to answer this question, the performance against a downtrodden team with a bad quarterback and a lot of injuries on defense? Or was this a sign of a team in West Virginia that used the open week to make adjustments? And this is the new team moving forward. Not that they're going to blow everybody out by 30, but that this is
100%.
the new offense, that the defense can be at least serviceable moving forward.
I think you're more latter than former. There's not a lot to like about Oklahoma State right now, and it maybe gets worse today because I don't know if or when you'll see their quarterback and running back again. That started the game today. There's something to that.
Oh,
And
real quick,
and
by the way, you muted Morrison. He
oh yeah,
openly talked about Gordon just being done, being like he was talking about him not playing again for the rest of the game, but
yeah.
was kind of insinuating maybe not playing anymore, period. And just getting ready for the NFL
Remember those
based
are
off the way the offensive line was blocking for
I
him.
mean those are two guys that Oklahoma State did not think they were going to have back this year.
Yeah.
Um, and so that I mean who knows, right? So I think to answer your question, Chris, like here's a complaint that people have about the Neil Brown brand of football, and it's that too often they play down to their level of opponent, and that things become needlessly tense and complicated and exciting. And there's an easy way to do this today, and there's a hard way to do this today. And the hard way is to have penalties and turnovers, to be conservative on offense, to punt instead of go for it on fourth down, to try. They didn't really get in the field goal slash touchdown thing except for the 1 point earlier in the game. And again, I have no problem with the field goal there because I think points are important early in this game. I can explain that in a minute here. So there's kind of a choose your own adventure, and they went in with every intent today to make this easy. And that's not a negative. Like sometimes like we're gonna have it easy because we're not gonna run block. We're not gonna, not gonna play man-to-man defense. No, none of that. They wanted to have it easy because they were gonna put their best stuff out there they've been working on in the open week, like you said, that they rehearsed on. And you could see it like the number of people that they stiff arm into the ground today, that's something they work on in practice. And I guarantee you that's been driving Chad Scott crazy because you see them do that in drills, right? The receivers will block their tails off today. And how many times did you hear them in the first couple of games saying they're not running their cornerbacks up the field? They're not running them out of the play. That happened all day. And like when the cornerback got 10, 12 yards down the field and realized that he was not going to be covering a pass that day, he would try to get back in the play, and a receiver was not letting that happen. So there was a lot of room outside. They just made it easy because they did everything that they were supposed to do, they wanted to do, that they practiced, that they have been, that they haven't been. And more importantly, they just again they stayed away from the bullets here. If you fall down to Mike Gundy, like his numbers when he wins are by and large following a script. He's going to score first. He's going to lead at the half. And if he gets to around 20 points, he's going to beat you. West Virginia blew 20 points out of the water. West Virginia won the toss and scored first. West Virginia led at the half. They did not mess around in this game. And I think that the worry about a Neil Brown team in the first couple of years is that they should do this to a team like this. This is what happened against BYU and UCF and Cincinnati last year. They should do this to a team like this, and they did. And that's something that is a good sign for today because maybe they haven't done that so far. Maybe they haven't played a team like that yet. Kansas probably is that profile of the team, but they did that today. Now, do they have many more of those left? I don't know. But when they play Iowa State, when they play Kansas State, when they play Arizona, they better know who they are and what the other team does not want West Virginia to do. And they better figure out how to do that stuff because that happened today. Oklahoma State had no answer, and you could tell if you're wild, they did not want to play defense against that running game.
No, I mean, I felt the offensive line
Killed
dominated this game. Yeah, just clearly dominated this game. I thought Traylon Davis and Cole Taylor came in and cleared out a lot of space as well. There were several runs that broke big because those guys came in and cleared out space. And
Yep.
to your point, a lot of wide receivers blocking downfield. Even on that play, the one where Green got hurt, was it a 40-yard run?
Yep.
Hudson Clement is still blocking his man all 40 yards down that field. So there was everybody was involved, like 11 man running game right there for West Virginia. Um, that I think it was you that said during one of the touchdown runs, business decisions by Oklahoma State right there. There were some dudes that were not ready to kind of just lay in there at a certain point. And the way that Jaheim White was spinning like he was in Madden, CJ Donaldson was planting guys with a stiff arm, like, he was back in Pee Wee football. Um, West Virginia looked like they were having fun out there. The running backs, especially, like they looked like they were having fun out there and wanted the ball and just wanted to keep running it. And Oklahoma State was just like, nah, I'm good. We don't kind of really want to tackle you right now. Let's call it a game and move on. So
Some more stuff if I repeat. I'm sorry here. They've never been 2-0 in the Big 12 in back-to-back seasons before. First time. And that seems small, but like, how are you going to go somewhere if you're always playing behind the eight ball or from square a couple weeks into the season? And then I think more runs in a game, definitely more runs in a game than any other game in the Brown era, and second most rushing yardage. And to your point, Chris, they have 3 pass plays of 20 yards or more and 4 rush plays of 20 yards or more. So it's not like these are 60-yard runs, 70-yard runs that skew the scales here in West Virginia's favor. It's just consistently, here 14 runs of 10 yards or more. That's getting it done right there. That'll win you a lot of games too. So just really efficient, really effective in that first half where they did, just about all their damage. Maybe 1 or 2 of these big plays are in the second half that we're talking about. But by that point, you're just trying to figure out how do you get out this game healthy. And it would appear they did, but just they had a plan. They put their stamp on this pretty early and really never, ever, ever in trouble here. Even 3-0 or anything like that. Even when it was 31-7, I'm sure West Virginia fans are like, oh, there's 9 minutes left. I know better. Come on, you watch the first 51 minutes of that game. You knew nothing crazy was going to happen there too.
your
Let's
point on
let's
the rushing, most
Yep.
most rushing attempts in a game since 1990 for West Virginia.
Holy cow, really?
Yeah, since 1990, more than the Pat White and Steve Slayton days, 65 total times officially, thanks in part to the 2 kneel downs at the end that bumped them over a couple games where there were 64. But 65 rushes, most since 66 against Pitt in 1990.
What are the plays? Like 80-40 total plays?
Let's pull this up. What is it? So 66. Somebody do math. You guys are going to ask me to do math here. 65 to 16. So what's 65 divided by 81? 80-20. 80% run.
But how many plays did Oklahoma State run? Like 40,
Oh, 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 oh. 24 passes, 21 rushes,
45? Okay. So
45.
almost 80-40. It's almost 2-1 there. And I bet you first downs were at least 2-1. And that's
Yeah.
Brown football. If Brown gets 25 first downs, he's going to beat you. And he was probably there close to that in the first half too. But I bet you they probably had, I mean, maybe like close to a record number of first downs in his time here too. What do you make of Oklahoma State right now? Because this is what we thought they could be, and
Yeah.
not the good way.
Alan Bowman is who we thought he was.
Hmm.
That was that was the worst quarterback performance I've seen since, well, BYU was really bad last year. So it's
Yeah.
kind of hard. But BYU and like it was in the same like vicinity of the BYU game last year where they were just a disaster. I think they came in with their second, third string quarterback in there. And the Pitt game where the secondary was sitting there like West Virginia's secondary is sitting there going, yeah, we're not worried about that. And we hope he throws the ball. Um, so it's among the 3 of the worst that I can remember in recent memory. So bad look for Bowman. And then so many injuries on the defensive side. Nick Martin again out.
Yeah, it's
That
bad.
was creeping out. I don't know why people didn't just flat out report it. I think I saw several. I was trying to look it up because I was trying to look at why the line was shifting, even though most of the money was actually on Oklahoma State. Like the line opened as a 5-point favorite for Oklahoma State, dropped down to 2.5, but more of the money was on Oklahoma State than West Virginia. So that doesn't make sense. Sports books don't do that unless there's an injuries or something else. And sure enough, Nick Martin, a couple other guys banged up that hadn't quite come public yet. And they're, I mean, their first and second line of defense just looked terrible. Again, West Virginia's offensive line owned the defensive line. Their linebackers looked out of position, kind of just out of the plays a lot. That one Garrett Green where he kind of pump faked the pass,
Yeah.
the linebacker that was blitzing, I think he was blitzing, he was coming in and he read it like Green had handed the ball off to Jaheim White. I don't even know if he did an RPO. I don't even know if he faked the handoff. And the guy just ran after White and tried to tackle him. And Green was like, oh, yeah, just run back up the middle. That guy should have just speared Green and gotten a sack, but instead was running after ghosts. I don't know what they were doing.
So they played a decent first half against Kansas State. They'll probably tell you that they should have been in that game. They had a turnover in the red zone. They missed a field goal. They're down 21-13 at the half. The third and fourth quarter last week, the first and second quarter today, they're outscored 52-14. They lose Martin along the way in that game. Ollie Gordon just they put on a shelf in the second half of that last game, and they gave him the ball a lot early in this game. It looked like he wanted to do well, and then it just gets away from him. And yeah, be serious, be curious to see what happens to him next. I will make a point of defense for Gundy here, and that's not something a lot of people will do. He really went with like the best way to win this game for his team for about as long as he could. He couldn't hold up momentum, and the West Virginia was on fire. But you know, I think he probably wants the ball first. He probably wants to get something good going. Didn't have that chance, so he starts off in the wrong foot right away. Um, Give it to Gordon, keep it out of Bowman's hands, and he wants to, he wants to, he wants to. But then field goal, you're like, okay, that's not bad. Then it's touchdown, and you're like, the moment where it's 3-0 and Marchio comes in, you're thinking, man, 6-0 with no Marchio? That's interesting. What could I, or with no Green? That's interesting, right? Marchio throws a perfect pass for the touchdown there in 3rd and 8. 10-0. Game's pretty much over at that point there because Oklahoma State, I think, goes 3-and-out. And at that point, you can tell like their plan isn't going to work. And Gundy knew it and probably stayed longer than he should have on the gas pedal, when it's only going to give you like 45 miles an hour. But I can see why he did what he did. But no match for West Virginia. And to your point in the running game, so much gap stuff, so much power. And pulling the center, Chris, unusual that they didn't move the right guard very much. They moved their center when they went left. A lot of times you're going to see your right guard. It's hard for a center to pull. And if you're looking for development on your line, that's a development. That's a guy who probably got better in the open week there too. To see your center pulling and then with a receiver or a tight end in motion too, well, now you're blocking with a number advantage there because you're not pulling 2 offensive linemen, you're just pulling one. And if Oklahoma State's going to keep 6 in the box all game, they're playing an even front with 2 linebackers. I don't know how many times that West Virginia looked at that like, are you kidding? Really? And gladly handed it off. Like, why were they so worried about West Virginia's pass game? Were they trying to spy Green or account for him in the running game? Maybe due to some of the success that Avery Williams had for Kansas State last week. I don't know. But that was easy picking for West Virginia's offense from the very beginning.
Can we take 60 seconds to name the negatives? Okay. Because I don't think there's much. There's not much that you really see negative. There's a couple little teeny things that we could say is negative or we're negative today. Do you got little ones? I got one little one. I'll start us off. Give
Start
you a
us off.
second.
Okay.
West Virginia goes to put in all new guys in the secondary to get them more snaps. And Oklahoma State goes 65 yards on 2 pass plays and scores in 31 seconds.
Yeah.
It's not great. And I have to look at the play again and have to know what the play call was to really know whose quote unquote fault that was. But again, like on that touchdown pass, you see Spells dart up into the flat as if he has coverage there. But that left a huge gap behind him. And there was already somebody defending the flat. So it was a little confusing. Looked like maybe he was in the wrong spot. Don't know that for sure without knowing the play call. But Boyce, wherever he was supposed to be, not sure it was the right spot, but then missing that tackle in open space. Just not encouraging for a position where they said they were going to try some new guys and get some new guys in there, and it didn't look great.
I have a really minor one. One thing I want to say, like, I think we probably need to cut it out with the tempo and the 2-minute drill stuff. West Virginia does not score points in the 2-minute drill because it plays fast. West Virginia scores points in the 2-minute drill because it plays smart. Um, it runs routes beyond the chains. It gets out of bounds. It'll run in manageable situations to get a first down and stop the clock. This is not some NASCAR offense that goes and goes and goes. They pick up first downs. They stay out of third downs. They don't have to call timeouts. They're good at that. And when they have their timeouts, they use them. So I think we need to probably revisit that. What was strange to me was that they had the chance at the end of the first half to get points, and they ultimately do. So this is a really small quibble. I understand that. But you're asking, where can I be negative? And I really got to grab the fine-tooth comb here. They're at the 40-yard line, 44-yard line, and Green goes deep on a first down play to Preston Fox. Preston Fox is not your man-to-man beater. He, for some reason, leads the team in contested targets. and the pass is almost picked off. It probably should have been picked off. There's a really good photo online I can share. Fox is out of position. The guy has two hands in the ball. I believe it's Corey Black, who's their best cornerback. Um, he starts at cornerback for them, right? So that should have been an interception. They get 7 points. They didn't have to get 7 points there, and they're better than that in that situation. Green is better than that in that situation. That's a pretty small one. The other one, man, they ran Nico a bunch with Garrett out of the game. And when you travel with three quarterbacks, that's a concern. Our travel rosters, Chris, did you have a fourth quarterback?
We both did because I remember the
Yeah.
conversation where I was asking you who is the guy who calls in the plays, who helps calls in the plays, because that would be my fourth guy because I feel like the fourth quarterback's pretty even, I'm assuming, between the options. So
Yeah, no. Well, I think Green might have been back on the sideline when this happened, but Markio took a helmet right in the thigh. I was like, that's gonna hurt, right? And then he ran the next play too. And I was like, what are we doing here? Like, just tell him to cut it out. Like, don't keep it, throw it, bubble, draw, something like that. But man, that's small stuff. Everything else is really smooth. And again, when you could be more critical and you could pull up a larger number of things in the second half, I think that second half counts as lab hours in some regard, Chris, because you're working on stuff. You got a chance. You played your good half. You put your good stuff on film. The stuff you worked on in the open week or specific for Oklahoma State, got it. A's across the board. Let's see if we can do this against another team. Let's go back to this thing we might have ditched. Let's try this that we didn't put in the playbook, but we kind of like. I think you saw some of that, and then the personnel just kind of obviously devolved in the fourth quarter.
the only other thing I had, and it's semi-related to your first one about that play where Fox kind of had to break up that deep pass. I'm trying to go through it real quick right now, but yeah, 6 incompletions for Green. 4 of them were on deep balls, and the guys were there on at least like 3 of them. I feel like a couple of they were there,
Yeah.
and some of those balls were not even, well, like, I mean, they were 5, 10, 15 yards too far on the receivers there. I'd like to see him connect on a couple of those more. Again, we've been very clear here. We are picking nits about this game because this was
It's fun.
domination through and through. But if we're picking nits, I would like to see a little more. I don't know if it's touch or just timing or what it is, because all 4 out of his 6 incomplete passes were on deep balls, and at least 3 of those 4, the guy was open, and Green just missed him by 5, 10 yards. Like, it wasn't off by like on his fingertips. It was just way off.
My next question to you, the reporting here coming into this week was that Oklahoma State 0-2. Yeah, that's going to happen when you play the two best teams in the Big 12. Chris, has Oklahoma State played the three best teams in the Big 12?
Oh my God. Don't make me do this yet, Mike. We're only on leg 2 of the 5-leg parlay here,
Yeah.
okay? That we
You're not going
talked
to
about
cash
a
out
couple
now?
weeks ago. Yeah, what are my cash out options? Hey, wait, do we have a sponsorship with a sports book, or we got
I,
our money
I think
floating everywhere?
your cash out option right now would be like the Texas Bowl
Okay,
in a bowl money equivalency, I think.
there you go.
But I think you'd have to put West Virginia in a different regard right now when you look at again, look at who they lost to. You got two undefeated teams, and who have they beaten? They beat a Kansas team that could give them trouble, and they handled this one today. I'm not sure there's impressive wins in there. There's probably losses that you can qualify based on the opponent's record and their success. So all of a sudden, West Virginia's 3-2 looks a little different. And just get ready for spin now, Chris. That's going to be a lot of the stuff because they beat the team that they had to beat at this particular time for their 1 week season. I get that, but now you look at the way they did it with emphasis, and again, like they haven't beat teams like this in a long, long time. To win by this much on the road is a rare thing. The largest margin of victory in a road game for Brown, largest margin of victory in a Big 12 game since 48-17 against Texas Tech. You have to think a little different. They earn that much. You have to think a little bit differently, at least for a couple of days. And then Saturday night, Iowa State, black uniforms. How great, Chris, would it have been if it was Rocco Becht against Nico Marchio at quarterback that Saturday night? No, no,
Just
I don't mean that to denigrate Garrett Green, who's the starter and deserves that spot. I understand that, but if he's out and all of a sudden you have the quarterback that Brown got against the quarterback that Brown could have gotten, and that would have been a needless talking point for a week, right?
light the message board on fire and let it burn until after the game, please.
Unbelievable. Chris, what you got coming up? You got a a new batch of rankings, and again, maybe the third best team in the Big 12 is in Morgantown, West
Yeah,
Virginia.
how high is West Virginia moving up in the actually accomplished rankings, Michael? Pretty high? Not high? Medium? Somewhere in the middle?
I mean, we're still talking with a bunch of football left to play in the Big 12 today, though. So
Yeah. We'll see where it goes. Yeah, we'll have that. We'll have the report card. We'll have some recruiting stories up. Caught up with another basketball recruit recently. Make sure you go back and read about Braden Hawthorne, the
yeah,
player from Huntington Prep who committed. Got interview with him. Also caught up with a former coach who had some great insight that we put on for our VIP members. Catching up with a couple more basketball targets, a couple baseball targets too. And yeah, we'll keep covering football as well. So don't worry about it.
seems like it's worth the investment right now.
Yeah, I think so.
Three things I think, three things I know. I'm gonna spin that around my head for a while. I've had about half of football to do that right now. Snap counts are gonna be interesting because that travel roster for the first time is down to 70. And again, three quarterbacks, three tight ends, seven linebackers, seven cornerbacks. Chris, three kickers. Um, oh, by the way, can we spend a second on kickoffs?
I sure. How did we not put this in the nitpicks? Okay, go ahead.
I thought that was why you were starting with that topic.
No,
I was like, oh, he wants to get to the kickoffs here. Are you okay? Is my question.
I I was a lot better last week, 2 weeks ago. I just, they kicked the first two. I think one of the first one Oklahoma State tried to bring out from the end zone,
Mhm.
but to then short kick it,
Yeah.
and you got a 17 to nothing lead, all the momentum in the world. Kicking it into the end zone has been working for 3 weeks now, and then you short kick it, and they get a 51-yard return. Like it's just mind-boggling to do that. Stop setting me up like this. Stop trying to get me in trouble.
Coach has got a coach, man.
Yeah. And then to kick it off out of bounds. God. See, I can't stop. I can't
There
help
he is.
myself.
There he
Yeah.
is.
I can't help myself.
All right, so we'll unroll three things I think, three things I know. We'll get the snap counts because again, that travel roster had some things that were interesting, and then but some of the decisions they actually vindicated by putting players out early in the game and late in the game too, some players too. So like we had a Colin McBee sighting first time this year, but he made the road trip as a fullback in the presence of just three tight ends. So a lot we can explain there. We'll do that tomorrow. Until then, I'm Mike Casaza.
And I'm Chris Anderson.
We will talk to you then.